Listen up. Listen up. Are you ready to get your cage rattled? Are you ready to reach the next level of success? Are you ready to learn how to make money and live a financial freedom life and not a monthly budget? Do you want to open your mind to a positive mindset? Do you want to learn more, be more, and achieve more? Do you need help finding the real you? Broadcasting around the world. You're listening to Ron Garverick Unleashed.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Ron Garverick Unleashed. Yeah, it's been quite a while since I've been on. I've been doing the Automotive Architect Sales Podcast, which has now gotten in the top 10 the best automotive podcast in the world. I'm working for that number one spot. So don't think I forgot about you on Ron Garverick Unleashed. I've got plenty of guests coming. I've got Eric Harper, who played for the Indianapolis Colts. On some other guests phenomenal. I got Bullseye Brown is coming on. Alan Langer is coming on. A bunch of good people that bring value to life, and that's what we need to start doing in our life right now. And it doesn't matter what our past is, where we came from, what we did. You know, everybody has flaws in their life. I've had flaws in my life. I've admitted it. I wrote a book about it. It talked about my book. It is an Amazon bestseller, number one. Amazon. We'll be doing a signing in Amarillo, Texas, May 20th through to 4th. Happy to want to show up and support me. Go right ahead. I really do appreciate it. But we do have a special guest on today. This gentleman, him and I have been friends since 1989. We played sports together. We went to the same junior high together. We went to the same high school together. You know, it's funny, we only have one high school in our hometown. But, you know, he's had a rough life, but he's not taking the negative and saying, poor, pitiful me. But he is learning, living, and I mean, he's got a great story, and I hope he's willing to tell you about his story, how it happened. You know, he don't have to get into a lot of things, but he can talk about where he was, what happened, and where he has overcame the obstacle and the struggle and make the man he is today. And our guest today, his name is Heath Frydendall, real good friend of mine. And hey, you know, I'm talking too much. Let's go ahead and introduce him. Hey, Heath, how are you doing, my friend?
What's up, Ron? I'm good, brother. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So how's things treating you lately?
Good, man. I have no complaints, man. None. If I complained, it wouldn't help anything. So I'm just going to keep on pushing.
Right. Yeah. So where do you live? You still live in Kansas, right?
Yeah, I live in Pratt.
Oh, Pratt. Pratt's a little bitty town compared to Liberal.
The smallest town I've ever lived in.
Yeah. And, you know, it's compared to, and I think you got family in Hugoton, right?
Yeah. It's a little bit bigger than Hugoton. Hugoton's like 2,500 people. This is like 7,000 people, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got family in Hugoton too. My whole family's from Hugoton. My dad's buried in Hugoton.
Right.
And told my mom the other day, I was like, I don't want to be buried in Dumas. I don't want to be buried in Liberal, and I don't want to be buried in Hugoton. She goes, then what do you want to do? And I said, man, just fry me. I don't care.
Cremate me and take me to Yankee Stadium. I'll be happy.
Yeah, something like that. You know, maybe I'll find Hoffa somewhere at Giant Stadium or something.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
So, you know, we went to school together. Now, we didn't hang out like, you know, stayed overnight at each other's house and stuff like that, but we did play sports together. We played football together. We had the same football coach.
Yeah.
And
Amazing, man.
and you were a year ahead of me.
Yeah, I
But
graduated in 96.
okay,
Yeah.
96, I graduated in 97. So,
Yep.
you left high school, you had a journey that you wanted to go on,
Life
and
changed. Life changed
life
in a blink of
changed.
an eye.
And all of a sudden you're like, "Oh crap, there goes my life."
Yeah.
So you want to explain a little bit what happened? I mean, I know you're transparent. You're
Oh yeah.
you're
Yeah,
gonna.
I got you.
So go ahead and explain. What happened and how you've changed.
Well, I mean, I guess I'd say probably the age of 17 is the age that probably comes to remembrance when I changed who I was to fit in. Uh, I mean, I grew up on stage. My mom was a dance teacher. My sister Scarlett and I, we performed all over the place. Won every contest I could possibly think of. I mean, Scarlett and we had a good time, and loved sports. Was decent at sports. Was fast. I'm still pretty fast, but one day I just, it was the '90s, so a guy that could tap dance wasn't like applauded, I guess, as much, and so I I switched to kind of a party mode. I don't care about anything type deal. Hung out with some people that I probably shouldn't have hung out with. But not everyone's permanent in your life. Some people are blessings, some are lessons. I've met a lot of lessons, but I got a lot of blessings too.
Right.
And so, one night after high school, went to a buddy's house, met a young lady there. Uh, yeah, just I wake up a week later and there's police at my parents' house, and I need to talk to Heath. And my dad's like, about what? And well, we just need to talk to him. And I remember I'm standing out there and I'm smoking a cigarette because I'm cool as heck,
Yeah.
1997 and 98, right around there. And uh, he says, yeah, we got to arrest you over this young lady. And I was like, who? Like, they at first they asked me, do I know so and so? And I was like, well, I know a lot of girls named that. Like, you got to be more specific. And then they told me, and I've never been great with names, but I halfway knew who they were talking about, even though if I was to be in the same room as her today, I wouldn't know it was her. Right? I've
Yeah.
seen her 2 or 3 times my whole life. One was at my trial. Uh, anyway, I ended up getting arrested uh, for indecent liberties with a minor because I was 18 and she was 15. Or I was 19 and she was 15. And I just remember thinking to myself, what? Like, what? Like, I'm just waiting for my sister to graduate so we can go to Oklahoma City University or something, or Juilliard, and pursue some other dreams and just get away. And you know, I got arrested that day, and I didn't see freedom again until May 15th, 2012. So coming up on 11 years here in another month, and
Wow.
I'll be home. I'll be home 11 years. But I ended up doing 14 years, 6 months, and 23 days. Uh, I could have done way less time, but I always thought of myself as a bit of a lawyer from debate class, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. But I wanted to see what dance and art and stuff like that could bring me first. And I went to trial instead of taking a 24-month plea bargain. I went to trial. I ended up losing at trial. Uh, Won a couple appeals in the process, and I never went home a day early. But uh, it was definitely an eye-opening experience. I went my whole life, up until that point, like barely knowing anybody that ever got arrested.
Right.
So like the way I was raised, I was raised different even than most of the kids our age. Because Scarlett and I in the summer she'd have cheerleading and I'd have football, and then we'd be gone for a month, dancing and stuff like that. So, you get into a situation that you're not familiar with anything, like it's all foreign to you. Uh, it's definitely an eye opening experience, but it ended up being a blessing because it allows me to be able to speak on any level. It doesn't matter where you're from or uh, just a quick example. I worked in a chaplain's office in Ellsworth Correctional Facility for a year or two, and the lady, Miss Russell, who was the secretary there, after about 6-7 months, I was the head clerk and had my own little desk and everything else. And she said, Frydendall, I'll tell you one thing that I'm very impressed by. She said, it doesn't matter who walks in here, you treat everybody exactly the same, and it's not like you treat them bad. Doesn't matter what their charge was. Doesn't matter if they were a shot caller or whatever. So I mean, I've kind of always been a chameleon. I guess I can
Yeah.
fit in almost anywhere. It doesn't matter. Uh, it's a blessing and a curse. So uh, I just have to be very mindful of not conforming. There's be doers of the word, not hearers only. I don't want to conform to the way the world wants me to be. I just need to be who God intended me to be.
Right.
So, yeah, the day everything changed was the day I walked into Ellsworth. Uh, it was, let's see, October 14th, 1998. I walked into E-Pod. They told me my cell was going to be E440. I walk up the stairs, popped that door open. We had keys. It was pretty cool. You could open up your cell, but they could also lock it where you couldn't open it. But I remember walking in there, met my cellie. I refused to call them cellies, though they were roommates, right? Like I didn't want to change the way I thought about things. I was just on a really long vacation, and that door slams, man. And I'd been in the county jail for well over a year at that point, so I was kind of used to being. Yeah, you never get used to the food, man. You just kind of choke it down. But that door slammed behind me, and I crawled up on my bunk, and all I had was my Bible. And I remember laying there, and I was crying, and I'm scared, and I'm a teenager. I'm in pretty good shape, but I'm not like I'm 5'8", probably 150 pounds at the time, But I remember laying there in that bed, and like I prayed that whole night and just talked to God, and I was just like, I do not want to, no matter how long I have to stay in here, I do not want anyone to ever be able to just look at me and be like, that dude was in prison. And so I think I did okay. I speak two languages now. I speak, inmate and English. So
I remember a friend of mine got in trouble, and he was on drugs, and he had a messed up life. So he broke into a college and like damaged some computers and stole some stuff, and they sent his ass to prison.
yeah,
And man, when he told me, or when I found out, I was like, man, we were just hanging out and drinking and partying. What the hell happened?
right.
And a couple years later, found out he was getting out.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got out, and I was like, so how was it? And he said, well, I met a lot of people in Liberal that was in prison. And I was
There's
like, oh,
not
yeah.
that many of us in there, really.
He was like, and Heath Frydendall was in there.
Yeah.
I was like, no kidding. Yeah. He was in like a band.
Yeah.
And I was like, so did you say hi? And he goes, well, he didn't really recognize me because I gained some weight. And it was Larry Busby.
Yep, Larry. Like the first time he walked up to me, he was talking to me, and he was like, "What's up?" He called me Heath.
Yeah.
You have to know me to call me Heath. And there,
yeah.
like usually it's a nickname or Fry, or because no one can say my last name right unless you actually know me. And he was talking to me, and I had probably that was probably year 7 and 8 of my incarceration when I met Larry. Weird thing is, I remember every cell I was in order. So that's a weird thing I have there. But yeah, Larry was in the drama team. He sang in the choir, so we kind of worked in the same building, and think he was getting his head straight and everything.
He was pretty messed up, and then
yeah,
I hired him on. As soon as he got out, I knew you get out of prison, it's going to be hard to find a job.
Yeah,
and I was doing barbed wire fencing and game fencing at the time. So I hired him on to be my foreman to help put up game fencing.
Nice.
And for his time getting out of prison, he's a huge WWE wrestling fan.
Loves wrestling.
And
Doesn't miss
I
an episode.
brought him to Amarillo, front row tickets for a WWE event.
he was happy. That was the
Oh
best day
man,
of his life.
he was
I
like,
promise.
No one ever would have done this for me." And he goes, "You
Uh,
didn't care that I went to prison.
yeah,
You took me in and made me one of your own and
yeah,
treated me like there was no other." And I
yeah.
said, "I don't care what you did. You didn't kill anybody.
Hmm.
You weren't part of the KKK. I don't
Right.
care, you
Yeah.
know, but I know who you are as a person. I know who you are inside because we played football together.
Right. We
That
sweat together. We bled
Yeah."
together. Yeah.
And I said, we're brothers. Don't It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if what you did. I'm going to bring you in and I'm going to take care of you because I know it was going to be hard for you to find a job.
That's the right thing to do.
And I kept him on for a little bit, and then he went his own way to work at another job. But he I had to help build his confidence back up
Yeah.
because he was down when he got out. He was down because
He was
everybody
down in Ellsworth.
he
Yeah.
was like, "There's Larry,
Hmm.
Buzzsaw, the
Yeah.
prison guy,
Yeah.
and stay away from him. He'll steal from you and he'll lie and cheat and everything." And I
Yeah.
was like, I told another friend of ours, I said, I'm going to hire him on as a foreman to do fencing because I know it's going to be hard for him to find a job.
Yeah.
So, and then I knew WWE was his thing, and I wanted to bring his morale up. And the funny thing is, we went to the event. We were hungry, so we went to Hooters,
Uh
and at
huh.
Hooters, all the WWE wrestlers came.
We're there. That's
So
awesome.
so you had your John Cena and we're in the or in the bathroom at the urinals, and Goldust walks in and he's peeing in the urinal, and you look up and you're like, "How are you?" "Oh, I'm good." "How's your dad?" And that
Yeah.
was the time they were fighting.
Right.
I'm like,
Oh.
"Why would you say that?" He's like, "My dad's good." And then he walks out the door, and then there's a 7-foot giant that walks in, and it's Big Show.
Yeah.
And Larry's like, "Oh my God, it's the Big Show." And, Paul White turned around, "Hey kid, how are you?"
Yeah.
And he buys us a round of drinks.
That's awesome, man.
And so, it was pretty good, and I was happy for him because, he had all this negativity, he had all this doubt that, man, I'm going to
Yeah.
be shunned, and I brought him in.
Yeah.
But it was funny when he came out, and I was like, "So how was it?" And then he was like, "Man, if you want to know where someone is, they're probably in prison because we had our own table."
Yeah. He's not
So
lying. He's not lying.
so I laughed. I was like, "So
uh,
he's doing good?" And he's like, "Yes, he's doing good." And
yeah,
so
I started a college program in Ellsworth that's still going through Barton County Community College, so inmates can at least get up to their associate's degree. They have to pay for it themselves. They don't qualify for grants or student
right,
loans or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I started that, got my paralegal degree in there. I stayed busy.
right,
The first 5 years are definitely the hardest, and most people don't do that much time,
right.
But the first 5 years is definitely the hardest. That's when you still think about what I would call the streets. Like you still think about your friends and okay, it's Thursday night, everyone's at Heavy's. It's it's
It
the
runs through your
schedule.
head.
Yeah, the schedule, right? Like,
And then every
and
Friday, during the
game day.
fall, it's
Yeah.
football.
Yeah. And that's where everyone's going to be. And, after, and I had, I had and still have a very good network of people that really care about me and wrote me. And anytime they'd see my mom, like tell Heath I said hi, tell him, we all love him and we miss him, and it goes further. It goes further than Yogi, down, lay down. My dog is trying to get in the shot.
Get a
And,
cameo shot in.
yeah, he's
There you go, cameo
oh
shot in.
yos. That's the Yogi. Anyway, but there's opportunity in there if you decide to take it. Uh, Everyone, the first thing when they find out, if they didn't already know I was locked up, when they do find out, it's the first question is, are you okay? Yes, I am absolutely fine. Like I had no problems in there whatsoever. And the second thing is, well, what's it like in there? And the best way I can describe it is if you watch a movie, it's not as bad as the movie. You know, it's not as bad as you think it is, but it's not as good as I guess politicians would make it out to be. You know, like I
Right.
mean, 15 years without air conditioning in a brick building, you could really get used to. See, there's some residuals. Like if you're riding the car with me and you're cold, like you need to change the temperature because I'm not used to being
Right.
able to control the temperature. You know, the first day I got out of Norton, and my mom and dad came and picked me up, and we met Scarlett and her brother and her husband in Wichita, and went to Logan's or some steak joint on the east side there, and uh, I remember sitting down and I'd been out like 3 hours, you know, like just I'd been out 3 hours, and there's a menu in front of me and someone actually talking to me, asking me what I want. And I looked at my sister and I was like, "You're going to have to order for me." And she said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want a steak." I said, "I just don't know what kind." And, you know, I know I want a medium rare. And, you know, bless her heart, she ordered for me. She said, "What do you want to drink?" I said, "Well, what do you have?" And she said, "Tea." I said, "I'll take a tea." And so it took like going to Walmart and stuff like that when I first got out. Those were definitely anxious times, and I'm not really an anxious person. I guess just a lot of people, a lot of moving around. Like you're not used to that stuff for a while. You know, like
Right.
everything's really controlled. So uh, just kind of being free, it's different. But you know, while I was on parole, I was blessed. I mean, I can't say enough about God and what He's done. I actually, man, I'd be amiss if I didn't. Like He protected me. He put me in positions to succeed, and I was smart enough to open the door.
Right.
You know, like I looked at myself, and there was probably a 3 4 5 year period that I wasn't real happy with God. You know, I cussed Him out a few times. I I learned about Islam. I learned about Buddhism. I learned about the Native American beliefs and studied them and participated in them. You know, and just searching for anything that made sense because I was raised in the church. You know, I was raised at First Baptist Church on Second and Sherman in Louisville, Kansas.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and you know was in the youth group and church on Sunday night, Wednesday night. Like I freshman and sophomore year, I was the guy that carried my Bible around with me.
Right.
You know, like I wasn't into a lot of the things that so a lot of traps in Liberal. You know, I mean, Liberal's not the nicest town in the world. You know, especially growing up, and uh, when you see people get shot and stuff like that while we're in high school, and I went to high school with some of these people, and you're just kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
To us, it was just like, hey, that was so and so just doing what so and so does.
Yeah.
And we just kept it moving, and so I mean, a lot of that, Coach Spoon, like I was a running back, so Coach Spoon was my coach for freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year.
Right.
Uh, he always had a way about him, and when I would play softball in prison or basketball or work out, and, you know, we had that extra gear. We'd be called to try hard or something, but we knew where the wall was, and we knew we were going to get to
I'm
the other
not
side of the
tired.
wall. Yeah, I'm
You're
not
not
tired.
tired.
No, we're going to keep on pushing. I'm not tired till coach is tired. He's
Yep.
never tired, so I'm not tired. And so, I mean, a lot of those things just from the way we grew up and the program we were in, that helped me kind of keep my sanity,
Right.
because there was times, Ron, when I would, just be like, I'm never getting out of here. Like I had a 204-month sentence, man. That's 17 years.
Yep.
I mean, I was 19 years old. So, I mean, you really can't count the first 2 years of your life. You don't remember none of them,
Oh no.
So I was literally doing in there what I had already done out here. So it was even money, like,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
so when you turn 20, 21, 30, 34, all in prison, like every day of my 20s was locked up, like uh, I didn't, I didn't have a lot of the experiences some people had, but who's to say I would have even been alive?
Right.
Like I, when I finally, because I've always thought of myself as kind of smart, and uh, in prison I didn't make the best first impression. Everyone always thought that I was just snotty or thought I was better than everybody else because I carried myself a little different.
Right.
And then once they got to know me, they were like, "Oh, you're actually really humble, and you're just nice, and you don't talk to a lot of people." Like I kept my head down.
Yeah.
The less people I had to associate with, the less drama that was going to come my way.
Exactly. Because
You
that's what
know,
they're looking for.
absolutely. And so God always put me in those situations. Like they have private industry jobs in there, and you actually make a little bit more than minimum wage and work a regular job, pay taxes. you actually pay 25% of your gross to room and board. So I paid to live in prison, you
Right.
know, like, so, but I mean, that helped me pay for my college. That helped, my parents not have to send me money, like, so God put me in a position to succeed as long as I was continuing to do what I wanted
Do
to do,
do
even though
what
I
you were
was mad at him.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I was mad at him. And I was in building 3, which was like the minimum custody / honor dorm. So there was medium custody. I was medium custody for 10 of the 15 years, like
Right.
my last 4.5 years, I was minimum, but for the most part, I was behind a fence or a wall. And, it had a little patio. So we had a little more freedom there, microwave, a pool table. I mean, but you had to be level 3. You had to be on good behavior, like there was rewards if you acted right, if you had some act right in you. And so I was there and I was on the patio smoking a cigarette, and uh, somebody was talking about the Bible and stuff. And I thought I was pretty well versed in it. I grew up with it and everything. And I'm sitting there listening to him for a second because I'm a listener before I'm a talker. Like I'd rather assess the situation before I
Let's see
touch
how
my
much
2
you
cents in something.
know
Right.
before I start talking.
What level I have to bring it,
Yeah.
and so I said a few things, and one of the guys looks at me and he goes, "What the F do you know, Heath? Don't you worship the sun or something?" Right. And like that one sentence, his name was Boyd Jones. That was his name. And I remember looking at him, and I think I just walked away. Right. Like I just walked away back to my cell, grabbed my Bible. And I always tell people, I said, I read my Bible every day, even though I was mad at God and I was practicing Buddhism, or I was going to the Native American call outs, or reading the Quran or whatever. And, I still felt that I was a Christian. I still believed in Jesus, but I was searching at the same time because I was still
Yeah.
mad, like, why did this happen to me? I wasn't throwing a pity party, but I was pissed, like, what the hell? Why me? Like, I
Oh
had
yeah.
plans, I had goals, I had dreams. I was going to be successful. I was going to be, famous. Scarlett and
Right.
I were on our way. And the that day was kind of like the start of me coming back to God, because right then I knew that it didn't matter if I got saved in First Baptist Church in 1985, following my aunt up to the altar at a revival. It didn't matter because I had no fruit.
Right.
I had no fruit. There was no love. There was no joy. There was no peace. There was no temperance. There was no patience in my life evident to anybody looking at me. Like, you wouldn't have known I was a Christian at that point. And I read my Bible every day. I prayed to God every day in Jesus' name. Every day had no fruit because I was angry. I was bitter. I was throwing a fit. I was a spoiled brat. I was like, God, if you love me, why am I going through this? you know, but I'm a question asker, so I always ask God. But He would always reveal Himself right on time. And then I met uh, a guy who I would consider my mentor and one of my best friends. His name is Alvin Mason, and this guy, people followed around in prison like he was Jesus. Like they talked so highly of this dude, and he was an inmate just like me and every other guy wearing a blue jacket in there.
Right.
And me being a skeptic and still being a little bitter, I watched this dude. I watched this dude for a year, begging in my heart for him to mess up so I could be like, see, he's fake. God isn't real, like, he's fake. And Mason, he never broke character if he was playing a role. To this day, I know he wasn't playing a role, but
Right.
in my mind, he never broke character. Like, he stayed in that lane 24/7, every day, all day. And so then I walked into, like, my buddy Jesse invited me to church one Sunday, and Alvin's sitting there playing the piano in the church, and he basically stopped. Like, when you in the 80s movies, when they walk into the bar and then the music skips and
Oh
everyone
yeah.
turns and looks, right? I sat down in the in the chair. Alvin basically, he said, "My Lord, Heath Frydendall is in church." And I said, "It didn't burn down yet." Right? And so sat there and listened to the sermon, and it was a lady preaching, and she's what I would call a full gospel minister, kind of like Kenneth Hagin,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I had never been to, say, a Pentecostal church, or a church that believes in the whole Bible. I mean, I'm
Right.
not talking bad about the church I was raised in. Uh, it was a foundation. It was a foundation setter, but I learned more sitting in my cell talking to God and reading the Bible than I ever learned in a sermon.
Oh
And
yeah.
so it's always about the relationship. And so they had a prayer line, and I was like, yeah, I'll take some prayer. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. I just knew I needed to get in line. So I'm standing in line, and I'm probably 50 dudes back. I mean, the church is packed that Sunday. And I'm sitting there, and the closer I get, like the more like in my, what I would call my spirit, like right below your chest, right in the middle of your rib cage, it's tremoring, like it's
Right.
just moving. And I'm crying, like uncontrollably crying, not like scared crying, not sad crying, just like tears, just
Right.
tears. And I get up there, and I remember I looked up, and Pastor Michelle, she grabs me by my shoulders, and she said, what was her exact word? I want to get it right, because I was just like, man, uh, she basically referenced King David, and my middle name is David. My mom always said, "You're my little David."
Right.
And the more I read about David, I'm like, man, our lives were very, very, very parallel. Similar. Like just in some of the things that I've learned and seen and just went through. And so I started going to church more, but still bitter. Still like not all in, like just toe testing the water to see what God was gonna do. Just like, is this water good? Am I gonna be okay over here? People gonna think I'm weird. And set up one night with Mason, and we had it out, and I basically had it out with God, and God bless Alvin Mason, because he sat there and he just let me just spew venom about God, just at him. And he said something to me. I don't remember what he said. It's probably 4 o'clock in the morning. And he said something, and it ticked me off. And I said, well, then I don't even believe in God. And in that moment, he looked at me and he said, that hurt. And right then I knew I wasn't talking to Mason at that point. God, I hurt God that day, and that breaks my
Yeah.
heart. So from that day on, man, I started working in the chaplain's office, running all the call outs, got my ministerial academy done. I just kept going, and then I get transferred to Norton, and I'm there for 4.5 years. And when I was in the minimum, I preached a call out every like Thursday night or Tuesday night. I don't remember what night it was. It was a Tuesday or a Thursday. Every other night I was out playing softball. But yeah, that was my prison experience. I met some of the smartest men I've ever met in my life in there. Uh, it definitely gave me a different perception on life. Because I have friends, people I actually consider friends, that have life sentences, and they don't know
Right.
if they're ever going home. And they've been locked up since 1997. We were all the same age. I didn't hang out with people that were in there for petty theft.
Right.
My friends are murderers. My friends are did some heinous things in life. And
Right.
because in there, you hang around with the people that are doing the same amount of time. Because when I was first in there, I hung out with people my age, and most of those people weren't doing 204-month sentences. They were doing 24-month sentences. So my friends were there and gone, and I still had 10 years to do. My friends were there and gone. I still had 8 years to do, so it got tired. So, I mean, I made a lot of friends that, are going to be there a very, very long time.
See,
And
when
go
I
ahead.
was I went to jail for 5 days for a DUI, and
Longest 5 days of your life, huh?
I was like, I walk in, and it was voluntarily. She said the judge gave me what day I could go on the weekends. I could, and I was like, I'll just go Friday morning and stay till
Right,
Tuesday afternoon.
right.
Just get it all done. So I get, excuse me, I get in there. They give me my pillow, or I don't think it was a pillow. They give me my
You get a
mat.
mattress. Yeah, you get a mattress that's
They
about
give me a
that
mat,
thick.
and they tell you what pod you're going to be in.
Right.
So you walk up there, and you're like, oh, top bunk's open. So then you look up at the top bunk, and there's your personal hygiene stuff up there, and you're like, well,
That's a
what the hell is
shelf.
that? Do I take it off? And the guy, he rolls over and goes, "You're on the floor." And I was like, "Okay." And I'm like, first, I'm copping an attitude like, who in the hell are you?
Right.
And then he took the blanket off, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm on the floor because this guy was all Hulk Hogan, beefed out, mustache, bald head.
Oh, there are some monsters in there. Like
I'm
there are some
laying
giant
down,
humans. Yeah.
and you go, what are you in for? I said, DUI. What are you in for? He goes, murder and rape. So I
Yeah.
slept with my back
To
to
the
the
wall.
wall because I valued my buttocks.
Your virginity.
And I mean, it turned out, he was a good guy,
Yeah.
and we talked a lot, but I didn't take a shower for those 5 days. I don't think
Oh,
I
so you,
went to the restroom those 5 days. I know I didn't eat those 5 days.
so you had a diet. You lost about
I
10,
would,
15 pounds.
and so yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna sleep all day
Hmm.
for 5 days and get the hell out.
That's the hardest way to do time too.
And I was like, this is stupid. And when I stood in front of the judge and she goes, Mr. Garvik, this is your second DUI. I said, yes, Your Honor. She goes, do you know what happens when you get your third DUI? And I said, there will never be a third DUI, Your Honor.
Hmm.
And she goes, you know how many times I've heard that, Mr. Garvik, and how many times I've seen those individuals come back? And I said, well, I can guarantee you'll never see me back in your
Yeah.
court for another DUI.
Yeah.
So they put me on probation. Still, I thought I was untouchable. And I guess the period's good enough for 15 plus years. I was going to the bar every night. Still,
Yeah.
I was going up to the cops. Hey, what's up, man? This is so cool, man. Drunker than the skunk.
Yeah.
And the girl I started dating, which is my wife now, she goes, hey, dumbass, remember these people can talk to your probation officer? I'm like, oh, yeah, but I'm invisible.
No,
No, I need
you're
to
the
go see
most
my.
visible.
I need to go speak to my probation officer because it was time to pay my fee and whatever. And so I worked at the newspaper in Liberal, and I walked everywhere. I
Hmm.
sold the advertising, so I walked everywhere.
Right.
And snow, sleet, rain, hail, wind didn't matter. I was walking, and I lost a lot of weight, by the way.
Yeah.
And so I went to go visit her so I could pay my fee, and she was like, "Mr. Garvik, rumor has it you're still going to the bar." I'm like, "What? Me? No, man, I walk everywhere. I'm too damn tired when I get off of work to be going to the bar, hanging out at night. I am beat to
Uh,
shit, man." And she was like,
uh,
"I have been seeing you walking everywhere, and I know the situation of how you got your DUI.
mhm.
So I'm just saying, if I catch you, you're going to prison." I'm like, "Cool." Go home, tell my girlfriend, and she was like, "See, I told you, we're not going anymore." Never been
Smart
since.
girl. Smart girl.
Never been since. Because that 5 days just flashed back into my head, and I was like, "I'm
Yeah.
good. Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
we don't need to go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good."
Yeah.
And so, but I met a lot of people that had a lot of stories,
Hmm.
and you know, I've talked to a lot of people that's been in prison and listened to their stories, and I mentioned Larry Busby a while ago, but
Right.
Larry used to have a podcast
Yeah.
talking to prisoners that
Nice.
got out and listening to the stories and stuff like that. And I kept encouraging him, keep doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
he would interview correctional officers. I think at one time he was trying to interview a warden, and he was interviewing guys that got out of prison just to hear the stories that they went in and experience from all aspects of the life. See,
Right.
when you think about going to prison, uh, it's in someone's head. It's a perception. If they go to prison, they're automatically a bad person. No matter what, they'll
Yeah.
never change. They went to prison. They're always going to be a dirty dog. You can't trust them.
Right.
If you went for a DUI and you get out, oh, you got to watch your things because he may steal something.
Yeah.
And if you go in for manslaughter, accidental manslaughter.
Yeah.
You're a murderer.
Yeah.
And keep guns away from you, and don't be alone with that person, or
Right.
and so the perception is is a terrible thing, because people can change.
Yeah. Oh,
People can
absolutely.
change for the good,
Or the bad.
because of
Yeah.
or the bad.
Yeah.
But the ones that change for the good, they always got, oh yeah, there's the guy that went to prison,
Yeah.
he just wasted his whole life on one stupid mistake. And
Nah. I
and
didn't do
to
no
me,
time for it.
when you went to prison,
Yeah.
I didn't care, and like you said,
Right.
I asked your mom, how's Heath? How's he
Yeah.
doing? Tell him I said hi. Tell him I'm thinking
Yeah.
about him. Scarlett, how's your brother? Tell
Yeah.
him hi. Tell him I'm thinking about him. I
They
didn't
did.
care what you did. And
Right.
and people are like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because you put yourself in a cell, and you lived there for a while. Man, I was in the army for basic training for 9 weeks. That is, I've never been to prison, but that felt like prison to me.
They're actually run really, really, really similar. Yeah. So.
I mean, no cell phones, no communication to the outside world. If you do, you have a 2 minute phone call. Uh, I was I was smart enough to align myself with people that snuck cell phones in, so
Right.
I had the opportunity to talk to my family, or to my wife at the time. But for the first 7.5 weeks, it was pure hell. Getting woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and going to the South Carolina circus and doing bear crawls and lobster walks and all that crap,
You should have been
because
ready for that. Coach Cornelson had us doing that in off season.
oh man, Kevin Kevin Carter said one time, when he got out of basic training, he came back to visit us in the weight room, and I said, how was it? And he was like, basic training? I go, yeah. And he goes, Coach Cornelson's a lot harder. I was
Yeah,
like, really? And he goes,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
8 years later, I joined. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is a piece of cake.
Yeah. We're different. Yeah.
I'm like, what are you? They're like, you're not even breathing hard, Garverick. And I'm like, I'm afraid to say, is that all you got?
No. Yeah. Don't do
I'm
it.
like, okay. He's like, you
Yeah.
just ran 2 miles and you're not even gasping for air. And I'm like, 8 years later.
I can do this all day. Yeah.
And I've
You
told
got some
Coach,
dumbbells you've been around with?
yeah, running 2 miles with dumbbells. You had to be smart enough to hurry up and get to the
Yeah, you better
dumbbell rack.
you better get those tens.
And they're like, why are you carrying 5 pounds, Garverick?
Oh yeah.
Because I got here first.
Yeah.
No, you trade. You're a lineman. You trade with so and so, and you pick up.
I got stuck
20
with the
pounds.
40s one time, and it dang near killed me. It dang near
I mean,
killed
they
me.
ran as ragged.
Yeah.
Coach Faust and Coach Spoon, man.
No remorse.
No.
No quarter was given.
What are you carrying? You're a lineman. You get the 40s.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm a 155-pound lineman. Come on,
Yeah,
get
yeah.
real.
Right?
So, and just saying, man, you spent your time, you did what you did, or you didn't do what you did, whatever, but you spent your time in prison. You don't need to be punished. Let me
All right,
ask
I
you a
did my
question.
punishment.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question,
Go for
because
it.
I always tell people that have been abused mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, crap like that. And I spoke this at a healing conference in Colorado Springs,
Mhm.
because I was hearing everybody's story, and they're going, poor, poor, pitiful me, and
Right.
and dwelling on the past. And it wasn't that, when I get on stage, I don't prepare myself before I get on stage. I get on
Right.
stage, God speaks for me.
Yeah.
So
I'm from the hip. Yeah, I'm from the
and
hip.
I'm hearing all these stories, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care if you've been physically, mentally, emotionally, or sexually abused. From what I've learned in the Bible, from the day you were born to the day you died, God had it all planned out. So he already knew that you were going to be sexually abused. He already knew you were going to be physically abused. He already knew you're going to be emotionally abused. So, that being said, did it happen to you or did it happen for you? God gave you whatever he gave you to make you a bigger, stronger, smarter person. to live through those experiences. He didn't give it to you for you to look for sympathy and have people come down on you and hug you and kiss you. He did it to make you a stronger person, because there's going to be a person in your life that's weak. There's going to be a person in your life that's going to need assistance, need guidance, need someone that they can lean on, a mentor. So he gave it to you so you can be that individual, so you can tell your story, so you can be able to go, I've been there, I've done that, and look at me. If you fall, make sure you fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. And if you have no excuses, and without excuses, so no excuses, you find your result, which will find your reason. And each one of us here today have a reason. Things happen to us. My dad died when I was 21 years old. I haven't had a father figure since then. Do I use that when I'm trying to raise my child and my child's not doing right? Am I guilty for it because I didn't have a father figure, someone I could turn to? No. He gave it to me so I can be stronger, so I can be a mentor, so I can teach and guide through the grace of God. So things that
Absolutely.
happen to you, did it happen to you or did it happen for you? And how are you today as a man, as an individual, a child of God, being who you are today, and the things that happened to you? Because yes, you lost your 20s when people were hanging out at Heavy's. Heavy's was a bar that we all hung out to, a local college club. You you know you missed all the stuff that was important in your life.
Yeah.
You missed your sister's wedding. You there
Yeah.
was a lot of things that you weren't in. I mean, you could have been a dancing fairy on New York Broadway.
You never know, right?
Right. But God has different plans for you. That was your
Yes.
hopes and dreams. But
Yeah.
and Ed Milet says this. I hope to fulfill my life here on earth. So when I do go to heaven and I get introduced by God, when God sticks his hand out and says, Ed, I'm so happy that you're here. You've done everything that I've asked you to do. But one thing, I have to introduce you to somebody. And he brings you, the person that God made you to be, and you stick your hand out. Now, is that person that God made you to be, that looks just like you, going to say, Hi, my name is Ron Garverick. Nice to meet you? Or are you going to, that person that looks identical to you, sticks his hand down and said, We did a good job, didn't we? We
Yeah.
put, we did exactly what God told us to do.
Yeah. Yeah. While you were talking, I got I think about three things, and I'll start with this one. You were talking about, did it happen for you or did it happen against or to you, right? Well, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of his testimony, by the words of our testimony. So without a test, there is no testimony. So you have to be tested. You have to, without a hurdle, you would never need God, right? Without a dream, without a divine destiny, you would never need God. You could achieve it all on your own,
Right.
right? So we have to have that blood to atone for us and make us the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. We have to have that blood, but that testimony is also part of the overcoming, right? If I'm going to testify, I got to have something I've gone through. If I've never gone through anything, there's not one life I get to impact,
Exactly.
right? And every time I've ever spoke at a church, in a prison, at a funeral, it's, if I have a message, I always say, just, I don't want you to think I'm preaching at you or to you. I had to learn this first. I had to go through this first. I had to overcome this. I had to be tested in this area. I had to know that I was a doer of the word and not a hearer only. I didn't want to deceive myself.
Right.
So if we're doing those things, then God aligns us. And so if I always present cases, I like law, so let's present it like a case. If God is right, if God is the Bible, if the Bible is right, then what is to stop you from achieving everything you wanted to do? Because people love Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It sounds great, right? It's a great little thing. You get a tattoo of it, hang it up on your wall, do all those good things. But if you don't believe it, all means all, and that's all means. If I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, what's stopping me from achieving everything I was supposed to achieve?
Right.
What, a roadblock? A little time away? No, that was just a refining period. That was a fire. I didn't even smell like smoke when I got out. You know, like it is what it is, and I am not bitter. Everyone always asks me, you know, Heath, if you go back and talk to 19-year-old Heath, you know, would you tell him to take that plea bargain? I said, absolutely not. I said, because after 2 years in prison, I would have not been any better. I wouldn't have, you know, grown up. I wouldn't have been independent. I would have still been dependent on what people thought about me, and you know, what does my mom and dad want me to do, and everything else. And so, you know, I found that joy. I found that joy, and the joy of the Lord is our strength. And so that's what made me strong. Like, did I have bad days? Yeah, like it sucks in there, you know, but like any situation, like to me, you can't put me in a situation I'm not prepared for.
Right.
Ever again. Ever again. I am prepared for every situation because I know it's not what happens to me, it's how I react to what's happening to me. And if I react like an overcomer, I'm gonna overcome it.
Right.
If I act like I'm broke, busted, and disgusted, that's the only result I'm gonna get. You know, have you ever noticed, like, so in Mark chapter 10, 9 and 10, it says, have faith in God, for whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast in the sea, you shall have whatsoever you say it. You ever notice one thing? If someone says how mad they are, if they keep saying how mad they are, the more mad they get. If they say they don't feel good, the more they say they don't feel good, the
Mhm.
worse they get sick. So if you're not framing your world with the word of God, you will get everything you have coming. You know, the words we speak are seeds.
Right.
You know, God didn't build the earth; He spoke the earth. Let there be light, and there was light.
Right.
You know, and so if you can control the way you react, if you can control the way you speak, you know, it says from the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. So if it's not in here, it can't come out of my mouth.
Right.
So you know, everything in so I learned what there's only two kingdoms. There's a kingdom of light and there's a kingdom of dark. And if you're not operating in the light, by default you're in the dark. So if you're in the dark, the devil's nothing but a tool and a fool, and everything he does is a counterfeit of what he's seen in heaven. Because remember, guys, the devil, Lucifer, has been in heaven. He's been where we want to be.
Right.
He knows exactly how God operates. He was there. He was God's most beautiful creation. Could sing. He was in charge of all the music in heaven. Had every instrument working in one accord. You know, so I mean, it's not like he doesn't know exactly what's in that book. When he
100%.
tempted, when he tempted Jesus, he didn't tempt him with lies. He tempted him with the word of God. He would change one word that messed it all up. And Jesus said, "You might be right, but do not tempt the Lord your God." Jesus always returned that temptation with the word of God, because that is the sword of the spirit. When you look in, I think, Galatians, where it talks about the full armor of God, right? The
Right.
only offensive weapon is the sword of the spirit, and that is the word of God. That is our only means of defense and attack in our tool belt. That's it. It's how we talk. It's how we react. If you don't have the word of God in you, it can't come out of your mouth. If all someone ever does is complain, you know those people. All they do is complain. Doesn't matter what they've been through. You know, they could be complaining because Starbucks didn't have their Caramelicious today or whatever. You know, their
Oh yeah.
macchiato. You know, and they just want to find a negative in everything. Look online. Look at Twitter. Look at TikTok. People are either complaining about a man, complaining about a woman, complaining about a job. I mean, look, win one, build one, send one. If you're doing that, God is going to light your path. He's going to direct your path. You know, like if you're, I always tell people, if you're looking up, if your focus is on God, He's not even going to allow your foot to be dashed upon a stone. So He's lighting your path. He's directing your path. It's up to us if we take the road.
Right.
You know, it's not, and my road wasn't the same as your road, right? But here we are together. Our roads met.
Oh yeah.
You know, years
After
later,
all these years.
25 years later, yeah, 25 years later, here we are. But I mean, I always tell people, if you don't believe in God today, give Him a chance. Give Him a chance to show who He is and who you are, because I believe everyone has a divine destiny. I believe the graveyard is full of unfulfilled destinies, right? Like it I can talk about God all day, man. Like I hope I don't want to bore anybody, but it's special what God can do.
Exactly. And you know
What the
when
devil
you
meant to harm us, God makes for our better.
exactly.
You know,
And
so
so you let go and let God take over,
yes.
and so now you have plenty of opportunities now being out of prison.
Yeah.
And one of those opportunities is having the chance to finally tell your story
Yeah.
June 9th through the 10th in
I'll be there.
Grand Junction, Colorado at a healing conference. And I'll actually be there also to hear the story. And it's funny two liberal guys being in one area
At the
to,
same time,
to
watch
speak.
out.
Yeah.
Watch out, Grand Junction.
So the good thing about it is, Tawny's been a real sweetheart, and her and I are like night and day. She sugarcoat. She don't. Let me rephrase it. She don't sugarcoat. She's nice about um, helping people, and I'm more of the aggressive side. Get your head out of your ass. You know what to do. God's leading you the way. If you're getting in your way, then you're never going to go to where you need to go.
Yeah.
And so, and what I tell people is, as soon because I hated him too. I was so mad at him when my dad passed away, and I felt lost. So all I cared about, as soon as he got buried, all I cared about was getting drunk and getting laid. That's
Yeah.
all I care about. I didn't care. I told people what they wanted to hear so I can have sex.
Go get drunk.
And
Go get laid.
oh yeah, and it worked really, really well. And the time I had to go spend 5 days in jail, I was rock bottom.
Yeah.
I was, I lost everything: my job, my house, my car, my license. I was raising a 2-year-old, 3-year-old daughter, living with my mom in an apartment that had no hot water.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, man, what is going on? And I'm like, this is because of you. You did this, God.
You made this bad.
And he spun it around and he goes, I gave you everything that I could give you. You just didn't take it.
Yeah. I gave you all the tools. You just built
Yeah.
the wrong machine.
And I'm like, you know, drinking and driving, playing chicken with semi trucks, not with my vehicle, standing in the middle of the Highway 54, playing chicken with semi trucks, saying, take me.
Yep.
It For some reason you wanted to ruin my life. Here, let's go. I'm ready. I want to play with you. I want to see if you're going to take me so you can tell me face to face why you did what you did to me. And I was playing with him. I don't remember most of the time. I lived in Tyrone, Oklahoma. I don't remember most of the time getting home safe. I was in Juarez, Mexico, drunker than a skunk, and found my way back to Las Cruces, New Mexico. 45-minute drive. I don't
Right.
know how I got across the border. I don't know how I found my car. And I don't know how I drove from El Paso to Las Cruces.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you still keeping me around? I don't understand why you're still keeping me around. I promise you, by the age of 25, I will be dead, and I will be fine with that.
Right.
4 days before my 25th birthday, my daughter was born, and that all changed. Yeah, I veered off a little bit after our divorcing from her mom,
Mhm.
but meeting my wife that I'm with now, everything has been bright, looking up, and I see the future, and I see where I'm supposed to go and what I need to do, and how I'm going to do it. And so I I also have the opportunity to tell my story, and it's good because if once you can someone that hears you speak can relate to what you have to say, they
Man.
know if you can do it, they can do it, and their life will change forever.
Yeah. I have some friends that still email me and stuff or call me from prison, and they're talking about they make it out. I have one buddy that he finally got paroled off of his life sentence, and he's about to get out another 2 years. I think he had a little bit more time to do besides the life sentence, and he's like, Heath, I think I'm just going to take this job because I think that's all I can get. I said, if that's all you think you can get, that's all you should expect. I said, but if that's the only place hiring when you get out, you take that job. You work that job, you get your resume built up. Like I tell people, if McDonald's is the only place that'll hire you, work at McDonald's. Be the best McDonald's employee you can be. Someone's going to notice you. God's going to put things in motion for you. See, people don't know how to finish. They don't know how to finish. And I think that's one thing that our coaches taught us growing up is always finish strong. Do I get lazy? Absolutely. Do I get tired? Absolutely. Do I get depressed? Yeah. Have I been suicidal? Absolutely. I have wanted to leave this planet multiple times, and thank God I'm still here.
Yeah.
Because I'm not done yet. Every time I get that low, God's there to pick me back up and put my pieces back together. It doesn't matter how many times I fall. A righteous man gets up 7 times. Like it just keep going. But what's really been echoing lately to me is it's not addition anymore, it's multiplication.
Right.
Right. And so if it the fruit of the spirit always starts with love. Everything is love based. If you operate in love, if you operate from a position of love, you cannot fail, because love never fails.
Right.
Right. It is patient, it is kind, it holds no record of wrong. When I heard that part, we say that 2 Corinthians 13 or 1 Corinthians 13 at every wedding. Love is patient, love is kind, it is blah blah blah. Right. They always forget, because right now we have a 50-50 chance of getting a divorce if you're married.
Right.
That's the divorce rate in the United States. And so if that is true, then we're failing in love. That's where we're failing. The Beatles say all you need is love. Right. I don't think they were talking about God, but God is love.
Right.
And so if you operate in love, if you come from a position of love, it expounds, it gets bigger. You don't vacillate, you stay on task. It doesn't matter who sits at your desk, whatever their problem is that day. If you come from a position of love, at first they're going to be confused, because they're not going to think you're real.
Right.
Right. They're going to be like, who is this guy? There's no way he is real. I always tell people, watch me. That's the only way I can prove it to you. Ask God who I am.
Exactly.
Because I know who he told me I was.
So, so the funny thing is, you were talking about First Baptist Church. Did you ever
Yeah.
ride the bus with?
the,
Uh,
the the big gray goose,
yeah.
just a church camp.
So I went to church with Josh Hinton to First Baptist Church,
Right.
and I always remember. Okay, there was two kinds of music we were listening to that people were singing on the bus. One was NWA, F the Police, and
On the way to Sunday school.
on the way to Sunday school. But then on the way home from Sunday school, it was This Little Light of Mine.
I'm gonna let it shine.
So the other day, my wife, my granddaughter we were sitting in the living room,
Mm-hmm.
and we had the YouTube on the TV, and we were singing and songs were popping up. Well, it paused, and I started singing This Little Light of Mine. I'm gonna let it shine. And my wife looks at me and goes, "You know church music?" I was like, "Yeah, my grandma took me to church. I went to church with Josh."
Uh,
And I mean, singing Jesus loves me. Yes, I know, for the Bible tells me so. So it crossed my mind when you said First Baptist Church. I was like, I took the
yeah.
bus to First Baptist
That was the
Church.
big church. That was the fun church. We had the basketball
We
courts, the
all the
weight
way in the
room, the
balcony and
pool.
looking
Yeah,
down,
yeah. It was the
and
big church. Yeah.
and just and I didn't really understand everything that was on the church. When I was a
Me
young
either.
child, it was, hey, you want to go to church? No. Well,
Not really.
they're gonna give candy and a toy if you go. I'm always going, right?
Absolutely.
So when I got older, hey, you gonna go to church? Who's all going? Oh, this person, this person, this person. Oh yeah, I could go hang out with them.
Hmm.
I really didn't understand church.
No, I was there to talk to girls.
Yeah, and so it was like going to the after football dance. You just go
Great
to
times.
socialize. You really,
Yeah.
you know,
I went to
and
dance. I don't know what you went to do. I went to go dance.
just sit around with my hands in my pocket, look around.
I'd be a sweaty mess after the after
I
after
was
the
like,
dance.
enough of Boys to Men and Seal, Kiss from a Rose,
Hey man, look, don't
and everything
don't
I
knock the
do, I'll do for
classics.
you with
Don't knock the
Brian
classics,
Adams.
Brian Adams.
I was like, why all these slow songs,
Uh,
man?
yeah,
I could do Jump Jump with Chris Cross,
we
but
had that too, and then whoop, there it is, and
yeah.
come on, ride the train.
And when you mentioned Whoop, there it is. That after the game.
Yeah.
It was Tootsie Roll and Whoop, there it is.
Yep.
And every time I hear that song, either or on 90s on 9,
Yep. You're
I
right back in
think
the locker
about
room.
yeah,
You're right back in the locker room.
and Tom Wooten over there
Yeah.
singing Tootsie Roll.
Having a
And
great time.
it's crazy. So,
Yep.
man, I had a good time. And I
Absolutely.
really did. We've been doing it for an hour and 5 minutes, and
Yeah.
I think you dropped a lot of bombs, and I think you dropped a lot
Yeah.
of knowledge, and people that could see. It doesn't matter if you've been in prison. It doesn't matter what you've done with your life. You can always change and follow
No.
the word of God and get
Get up
to
off the ground.
and get yourself off the ground.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful that people can be able to know no matter what.
Absolutely. Have me back soon.
And well, of course, man. I'm thinking about at the conference, and
Yeah.
start interviewing people at the conference.
Yeah.
So I know
Absolutely.
the last time I tried to do that it had concrete walls, so the reception was really bad.
Right.
But I plan on doing it with this conference, is have people come in because it just takes a camera, a mic, and a laptop.
Yeah.
So it really
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
I'll
But
probably go live on TikTok.
oh, absolutely, TikTok's killing it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I thank you for being on the show today.
Hey,
I really had a
appreciate you,
blast.
Ron. Yeah, love you,
And
brother.
I love you too. Anything that I could do for you, get you to the next level in life, or speaking or whatnot, just let me know.
Man, I'll take any opportunity, man.
It-
Like I
it-
said, we can do this once a week. I don't care. I'm always in.
there you go. And you heard it right there. This guy is all in. If you wanna hear more of Heath, man, just drop me a bomb, drop me a DM, say something on YouTube. We'll be happy to do that.
And even if you don't, I'm still coming back. They're gonna hear from me. I'm gonna reach that person that doesn't want to hear from me. That's the goal.
If we could reach everybody and change one life at a time, we're all
Win
about it.
one, build one, send one. Let's
There
do
you
it.
go. There we go. Thank you, my
Yeah.
friend.
Love you, man. Later.
Love you.